The FBI Director James Comey, Martha, thank you, is in the middle of the fire right now. Former federal prosecutors, senior Justice Department officials, including the former AG Eric Holder, writing the following, quote, "Many of us have worked with Director Comey. All of us respect him, but his unprecedented decision to publicly comment on evidence and what may be an ongoing inquiry just 11 days before a presidential election leaves us both astonished and perplexed," end quote. At the same time, Trey Gowdy, congressman from South Carolina, slamming Senate Minority Leader Harry Reid's claim that Comey's decision to announce this new phase broke the law.
Harry Reid knows that this is not a violation of the hack. This is the same guy that went on the floor of the Senate and said Mitt Romney didn't pay taxes. So he is a political hack, and I would say more than that if I weren't going to get fined by the FCC.
So that was Gowdy from last hour. This hour, the judge, Anna Napolitano, with me here, and also from New Hampshire, the former Governor John Sununu, former White House Chief of Staff to President George H.W. Bush, and author of the book, The Quiet Man. Governor, stand by one moment. I want to examine the politics with you. First, the legal side of this with the judge next to me, and good morning to you.
No.
You believe the FBI director was wrong.
I do.
Why?
I believe, and it's an odd company for me, but I agree with Attorney General Holder. It is absolutely unprecedented to give a progress report on a criminal investigation. It is prohibited by the Department of Justice regulations. It's prohibited by the FBI regulations. It's prohibited by legal ethics, and it violates due process. What are the regulations? The regulations say you keep quiet about the progress of an investigation. You report your evidence to the Justice Department. The Justice Department decides what to do with it. The regulations also say you do not make a public announcement about a person about the criminal investigation of a person whose name is on the ballot within 60 days of Election Day unless it's necessary to save life or diminish violence.
That's what the law says?
Yes.
Maybe the evidence is so overwhelming that he could not ignore this.
Well, that's why it's so perplexing, Bill, because he hadn't seen the evidence at the time he sent the letter.
But apparently, based on what has been reported, they were looking at this a month ago.
Yes, but they hadn't told Director Comey about it, nor had they seen the emails, unless they viewed them unlawfully, that are pertinent to Mrs. Clinton. They certainly had seen the emails that were pertinent to Anthony Weiner because he gave them his laptop. But the search warrant authorizing them to read the emails between Mrs. Clinton and Huma Abedin, or Huma Abedin's emails that she forwarded to herself, whatever their source, wasn't signed until last night. That's why Jim Comey himself, and I share Eric Holder's respect for his professionalism, though I believe he made a serious blunder here. That's why Jim Comey himself said in the letter, I don't know the significance of it. So why give a progress report about evidence you haven't seen and that you can't evaluate and to somebody you don't work for? He works for the DOJ. He doesn't work for the Congress.
Okay, now I remember him saying intent. Let me come back to that in a moment. To the governor, first of all, what is your sense about how this plays, knowing we select a new president a week from tomorrow?
There are two time frames. The short term is political, the long term is legal. But what this does, whatever way this plays out over the next few days, it is going to emphasize this culture of corruption and culture of deception that seeps through everything the Clintons touch and is now seeping through the whole Democratic Party. It's how the DNC tucked it to Bernie Sanders. It is why in Virginia they had the gall to raise money for Terry McAuliffe to send to a state senator her campaign when she was the wife of the deputy director of the FBI. It's a culture of corruption that they have to deal with in the next 7 days.
Okay, so was Comey wrong? Do you believe, or sorry, do you agree with the point the judge is making here?
I think Comey was between a rock and a hard place. This was going to come out Friday if Comey put it out, or Saturday if it was leaked by the FBI agents who were furious. And he understood that. And I think in order to preserve the integrity of the FBI, he had to come out with it Friday.
Wow, is that a possibility?
Yes,
Judge?
yes. Jim Comey was facing, and in fairness to the governor who's got his finger on the pulse here, Jim Comey was facing a revolt by young FBI agents and retired FBI agents, not because he was sitting on evidence about Hillary Clinton, but because of the damnable decision he made on July 5 not to prosecute her when the evidence of her guilt at that time was overwhelming.
30 minutes ago, Karl Rove was saying he was wrong in July and he was wrong now. You would agree with that in a word, correct?
Absolutely.
Governor, go ahead.
Judge, there's one more point I think you have not given enough weight to, and that is the fact that this made it very clear that Huma Abedin lied when she said there were no emails on other devices. And if I were in the director's chair, I would say, oh my gosh, that is a clue to the depth of the climate of corruption that goes across this thing. And I think he had to put it in a proper context to people he had reported to, namely the American public and the Congress.
Well, he reports to the Justice Department, not to the Congress. But again, I agree with the governor.
But he had reported to the public.
I haven't seen the affidavit that the FBI presented to a federal judge here in New York to get him or her to sign a search warrant, but I'm going to guess it had to do not with Mrs. Clinton, not with Anthony Weiner, but with whether or not, as you said, Governor, Huma Abedin lied to the FBI. That is the doorway that they will use to enter these emails.
To gentlemen, to both of you, thank you for your time. We're out of it for now. Time, that is. But, Governor, thanks. Judge, thanks to you. You bet.